Chapter 2 Three Questions by Leo Tolstoy. It once occurred to a certain king that if he always knew the right time to begin everything, if he knew who were the right people to listen to and whom to avoid, and above all, if he always knew what was the most important thing to do, he would never fail in anything he might undertake. He had it proclaimed throughout his kingdom that he would give a great reward to anyone who would teach him what was the right time for every action, and who were the most necessary people, and how he might know what was the most important thing to do. Many learned men came to the king, but they all answered his questions differently. In reply to the first question, some said that to know the right time for every action, one must draw up in advance a table of days, months and years, and must live strictly according to it. Only thus, said they, could everything be done at its proper time. Others said that it was impossible for one man to decide correctly the right time for every action, but that he should have a council of wise men who would help him to fix the proper time for everything. Equally various were the answers to the second question. Some said that king most needed his counselors. Others mentioned that priests, others the doctors, while some said the soldiers were the most necessary. To the third question as to what was the most important occupation, some replied science, others said warfare, and some said religious worship. All the answers being different, the king agreed with none of them and gave the reward to none. But still wishing to find the right answers to his questions, he decided to consult a hermit widely known for his wisdom. The hermit lived in the woods, and he received none but common folk. So the king put on simple clothes and before reaching the hermit's cell, dismounted from his horse. Leaving his bodyguards behind, he went on alone. The king found the hermit. He was digging the ground in front of his hut. Seeing the king, he greeted him and went on digging. The hermit was frail and weak, and each time he stuck his spade into the ground, he breathed heavily. The king went up to him and said,
"I have come to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I most need, and should I, therefore, pay more attention? What affairs are the most important and need my first consideration?"
The hermit listened to the king, but he said nothing and continued digging.
"You are tired,"
said the king.
"Let me take a spade and work a while for you."
"Thank you,"
said the hermit, giving the spade to the king. When the king had dug 2 patches, he stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit gave no answer, but said,
"Now rest a while and let me work a bit."
But the king continued to dig. 1 hour passed and another. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the king at last stuck the spade into the ground and said,
"I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, tell me so, and I will return home."
"Here comes someone running.
said the hermit.
Let us see who it is."
The king turned round and saw a bearded man come running out of the woods. The man held his hands pressed against his stomach, and blood was flowing from under them. When he reached the king, he fell fainting on the ground, moaning feebly. The king and the hermit unfastened the man's clothing. There was a large wound in his stomach. The king washed it as best he could and bandaged it. But the blood would not stop flowing. So the king removed the bandage soaked with blood and washed and bandaged the wound again. The king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. Tired with the work he had done, the king crouched down by the door and fell asleep, so soundly that he slept all through the night. When he awoke in the morning, the strange bearded man lying on the bed was gazing intently at him with shining eyes.
Forgive me.
Said the bearded man in a weak voice.
I have nothing to forgive you for.
Said the king.
I am an enemy of yours who swore to revenge himself on you because you banished my brother and seized his property. I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I resolved to kill you on your way back. But the day passed, and you did not return. So I came out from my ambush to find you, and your bodyguards saw and recognized me, and wounded me. I escaped from them, but would have bled to death had you not bandaged my wound. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. Now, if you wish, I will serve you most faithfully, and will bid my sons do the same. Forgive me.
The king was glad to have made peace with his enemy and gained him for a friend. He not only forgave the stranger but promised to send his own physician to attend to him and to restore his property. Then the king went out and looked around for the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to beg an answer to the questions he had put forth. The hermit was outside, sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king approached him and said,
For the last time, I pray you to answer my questions, wise man.
You have already been answered.
Said the hermit, and looking up at the king who stood before him.
What do you mean?
Asked the king.
Do you not see?
Replied the hermit.
If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday, and had not dug those beds for me, but had gone your way, that man would have attacked you. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when that man ran to us, the most important time was when you were attending to him. For if you had not bound up his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important, now. It is the most important time because it is the only time when we have any power. The most necessary person is he with whom you are, for no one knows whether he will ever have dealings with anyone else, and the most important affair is to do that person good, because for that purpose alone, we were man sent into this life.
Adapted. We cannot alter the past, but by making the best use of our present, we can ensure a better future.